I'll tell you what, I keep meeting people who don't think that their skill can be used in the Great Commission. And I'm like, well, good meeting you, but we're never going to see that on the platform, never, ever. And then I get a call 2 days later, and there's somebody that needs that exact thing. I'm like, how cool is God that you can literally just say, you know what, I'm just going to trust God. Put it in, we'll see what happens. And then all of a sudden it happens. It's been a real inspiration to me. My name is Scott Elequin. I'm from Austin, Texas, father of 3. Been a believer for many, many years, and actually I'm involved as the executive director of Switchboard, which connects believers globally to Great Commission activities around the world. And this is my Faithly story.
Welcome to Faithly Stories, the podcast that brings you inspiring tales from conversations with church leaders as they navigate the peaks and valleys of their faith journeys through their ministry work and everyday life. Join us as we delve into their challenges, moments of encouragement, and answered prayers. The Faithly Stories podcast is brought to you by Faithly, an online community committed to empowering church leaders, pastors, staff, and volunteers. Learn more at faithly.co. Get ready to be uplifted and inspired as we unveil the heart of faith through stories from the front lines of ministry on the Faithly Stories podcast.
I want to begin by just talking about Switchboard. Like, what is it? What do you guys do? What are you hoping for?
Sure. Basically, Switchboard really came as it was really an effort from some startup guys in Austin. They're strong believers who really were frustrated that you've got all this technology and all these people with all these skills that really want to be involved in the Great Commission and want to help missionaries, and they really are excluded from it. I think in a lot of ways, in the West at least, that we kind of outsource our Great Commission activities by giving to organizations but not directly participating. So we basically have built a platform that connects believers virtually, working remotely based on their skill set with Great Commission organizations from around the world for whatever it is that the need, whatever a need arises in the field.
But how does it work? Like, you go on the site or who is the site for?
Well, it's interesting because like a platform technology, it's like they're really two different customers. Mm-hmm. So for Uber, you have to have, you have drivers. You also have riders. And if you don't have either one, the other side gets disinterested pretty quickly. So what we've done is that we've basically working with some pretty large global organizations. Pioneers and Christar were 2 of our biggest design partners in the very early stages. And
I'm sorry, who are they?
We partnered with 2 pretty large global mission organizations. One is Pioneers out of Orlando, who's been around for many, many years. And Christar, who has their international group in Malaga, Spain, and their U.S. offices in Dallas, Texas, the Dallas area. And what we do is we take the missionaries in the field, or we consider them Great Commission organizations, and we basically have them fill out a profile on the system, fully secured, and they basically bring needs to the table. And it could be a need around, the ministry itself. I need cartoons for a video I'm working on. It could be needs for the mission organization. I need someone to help me with my accounting or setting up my my books, or it could be something that helps the missionary themselves or the individual themselves. I have a son that's going to be going to college in the United States and would like to talk to a college advisor, or I have an issue in my family and I'd love to be able to have a will put in place. And so it's basically missionaries coming to the table to put their needs available to the global church so that volunteers from around the world can log in and can receive that need and help them with whatever that thing is. And so it's connecting the believer based on their skill set with the needs around the world. And I think the other thing I would want to point out is that from our perspective, if you look at the demand side customer on the platform, it really is not just a traditional missionary like Pioneers and Christar, but it's also indigenous missionaries. So it's a local guy or gal that's preaching from a street corner in Burundi, or it's a marketplace professional that's working as an oil and gas person in Saudi Arabia, or it could be like a business's mission or B for T that's setting up businesses so that they can have access to these countries. So if you exist for the purpose of the Great Commission, you're our demand side customer, and we want to help you kind of get your thing done.
Is Switchboard a nonprofit?
We are, yeah, 501c3, funded really through some of our larger customers and some key donors. And then we actually have a plan in place to be self-supporting monetarily by mid-2026.
But not pull an OpenAI, right? Where you go from nonprofit to profit.
We are not going to pull an OpenAI. We will also not do open source because there's a lot of security concerns.
Yeah.
But frankly, there are a lot of believers who are faith-based, who really care about what we're doing, who want to be a part of it. And there's several organizations we're working with who are actually providing volunteer resources to help us build out the platform.
So do you guys charge the missionaries? How does pricing work?
So pricing works right now. It's completely pro bono services. It's no charge whatsoever to the mission organizations. And we believe, we have to kind of see how the monetization plan plays out and the model plays out. But our hope is that we would never charge field missionaries anything at all, ever. We're also not charging the mission organizations. All the development work, the implementation work, the rollout work, implementing a church so that their people join so that they can serve and volunteer is a lot of work. But we're not really charging anybody right now. But we are taking donations from folks that really want to see this, moving forward. And one of the things that we do believe we can argue is that from an investment, a faith investment perspective, we feel like $1 invested in connecting experts who can really help with missional activities has a very, very high return on value, return on investment. So we actually have coined the phrase return on kingdom investment, because we're really investing in an asset that can deploy lots and lots of pro bono resources, which means you really, for every $1 you put in, by the end of 3 years, you're going to show $6 of value return to the field just by people getting involved.
Do you only specifically work through missions organizations, or can missionaries who are not part of an organization get connected?
So as our initial pilot, we were working strictly with established, initially ECFA approved, so people that were very, very highly credentialed. Now we've moved to people that are being referred by those organizations or partnering directly with those organizations. And as we're getting a lot more mission organizations that are hearing about us at conferences that are businesses mission as well, so they're not technically even non-for-profits in some cases, we're using kind of a credentialing process where we ask them to sign a statement of faith to kind of demonstrate what they're doing. And then we use kind of a social construct to be able to, people know people in regions. So we look for referrals as well. On the supply side, we ask every volunteer that serves to be 18 or older to sign a statement of faith, which is the Apostles' Creed, as well as sign a code of conduct that really kind of governs their activities on the system, just to make sure they're treating it as something that's very important, even though it's a volunteer activity.
So everything you say sounds so inspirational. I'm getting excited talking about it, only because it's hard to create something of value and give it up for free and then sustain it long term, right? And not only that, helping people, I think everybody or a lot of people have that heart, but when you start helping people, it's hard. But then for you, it's on a global scale. And you were talking about right before we got on to this call, is that how do you help missionaries that are in Africa or in Asia or in Europe? There's just so many different contexts.
There are. So, the taxonomy of the connection. So if you think of it this way, if I put a circle over here that said, here's every possible thing that a missionary could need in the field to spread the gospel. And here's everything that a volunteer or somebody could do, a believer could do, but working virtually over the phone. It's so what's the intersection between those two circles? We try to keep it super simple. Complicated things we left out. So you look at for speech pathology, not yet. Counseling, wow, that's way too complicated. Legal, too many statutory areas of jurisdiction. But by golly, if my car won't start, hey, that's the thing. Everybody uses MailChimp pretty much globally. That's a thing. So the bottom line is we started with the easy stuff. And if you think of it as concentric circles, so right now it's a 1 hour phone call around a specific thing that you know and that they need. So I need to talk about marketing strategy. Bam. It's a really easy connection. As we've started to add a lot more customers on both demand and the supply side, well, now we could be, I need a marketing strategy, but I really would like to have an advisor that would kind of stay with us as we implement the strategy. Well, that's a different request for a person with a different level of availability. Talking to someone that's willing to talk to you about being what tools you use for your internet, for your website, is different than a guy or gal that could actually be your webmaster that could work maybe 1 hour a week on an ongoing basis. So that's a different person. So we actually started with a 1 hour phone call around discrete tasks. We're now expanding to 1 hour phone call plus other stuff around, conceptual tasks or topical tasks. And then we're going to add more topical tasks. If you're familiar there's a book called The Cold Start Problem.
Mm-hmm.
It talks about how it's really hard to get things going. And I know that you're in this business as
Yeah.
well. So it's like we want both sides to have a good experience.
Mm-hmm.
So, we have somebody that's a volunteer, a kingdom consultant, we call them, that is really good with revenue and tax planning and understands business accounting principles really well. And we had a woman that was in Czechoslovakia that was running a business as mission, and she didn't have an accounting background, and she was categorizing her revenue in a way that wasn't actually according to accounting standards. So she was overstating her revenue. So she thought her tax liability was crazy high. She's like, well, I can't afford to stay here. This is true. We put her on a 1 hour phone call with somebody who's really good at that. And they're like, oh, no. Here's how you do it. This is what it looks like. Here's your projection. And it rocked her world. And so it's a super high value engagement that can happen in 1 hour. And by the way, I will acknowledge that I spent a lot of time on ChatGPT saying, how could a financial analyst help a missionary in the field in a 1 hour phone call? And what are those things that kind of popped out? Those are the things that we started with. Now that we've got a lot more work to do and a lot more workers to do it, we can now start to define that work in greater granularity. And we can start searching for deeper relationships so that right now it's about the work. But a year from now, when you have 500 financial analysts or personal financial planners, well, maybe matching someone that really cares about human trafficking with somebody that does combats human trafficking is a better fit, because now it speaks to both sides. So there's a lot of those types of things that the more you get to critical mass, the more you can really do a much better job of, number one is putting more work available on the platform. And number two is doing a better job of matching it to somebody who is more likely to, who's really willing to stay with that ministry on a long-term basis.
So on the supply side, are you working with churches?
So the answer is yes. It's interesting. Our ideal customer, I call it that, on the supply side is really anybody that equips people to serve, anybody that helps you look at your skills to how can I help the world kind of thing, but doesn't have stuff for people to do, is like a bam, perfect customer. So a missionally minded church, we have a really very strong missions focused church here in Austin that basically goes through all these classes to train people that they should serve, and they put them through perspectives classes, they put them through Colson Fellows, and all of a sudden they're like, okay, I'm ready to go change the world. And they're like, okay, well, we have serve day on Saturday. You can go clean a park, or you can go to the food bank. And by the way, those are not bad things, but the challenge of putting 111 volunteers to work on a Saturday between 9 and 1, it's really hard to find things to do. And if you're a patent attorney, chances are really good you're not going to have a faith organization that needs a patent attorney. And so to me, the people that really are trying to get people to really live out their faith and serve, but don't have stuff for them to do, I mean, we're just bringing in buckets or dumping it on their desk of stuff they could do. I mean, we met somebody this week. It's a creative access country who is just struggling staying in the field because they had a special needs child. So we reached to the mission pastors at some of our equipping organizations and said, hey, if you have maybe a family that's raised a child with this condition, it would be a huge blessing to be able to just work with this family to help them understand, what life could be like or how they could really manage better. And all of a sudden, this person who's like, so my gifting is that I struggled raising a special needs child and now I can give that back. It's like, what?
That's amazing. Yeah.
This is my calling. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
That's so cool. You hear about the guy who went to prison talking to prisoners. Okay, I get that. When I hear somebody who's went through, who's gone through a hard situation in parenting, and they can really use it to help with resilience and keeping a missionary in the field. Wow. It's just, I'll tell you what, I keep meeting people who don't think that their skill can be used in the Great Commission. And I'm like, well, good meeting you, but we're never going to see that on the platform. Never, ever. And then I get a call 2 days later and there's somebody that needs that exact thing. I'm like, how cool is God that you can literally just say, you know what? I'm just going to trust God. Put it in. We'll see what happens. And then all of a sudden it happens. It's been a real inspiration to me. And part of what we're doing as part of the process is that because we're cranking through these engagements daily now. And so as these engagements drop, conclude at the system, we drop them into our marketing system. And we basically write a snappy headline. We anonymize the name of the missionary and we have a 2-sentence description of what they did so that now we can put this on our website saying, what do you do? I'm a CPA. Well, here are 10 things that CPAs did for the Great Commission in the last 2 weeks. Well,
wow.
I guess there's no excuse. So all of a sudden you can bring it home that says that you homeschool your kids. Well, guess what? We need that. Oh, you grew up in Ethiopia? We need that too. Oh, you speak that language? Well, guess what? We need a bunch of that. And so to be able to bring home those things that were non-traditional ways for people to serve and to show them that they can serve, it's like a match to dynamite. You've got these congregations, the harvest is plenty, the workers are few. It's like, no, the workers are all in the pews. They're just not doing anything. So giving them something that can mobilize those people is just amazing. So on the supply side, we got these really cool dashboards. So an equipping organization can go through and look at what the people are doing and see how they're serving and look at the stories that are coming out of that and look at their skills. It gives them the ability to actually be much, much more effective than they currently can be with their congregation and get them much more plugged into missions, which frankly changes the whole equation.
Yeah, it's funny because when you're talking, the thought I had is like, oh, this is like a gateway missions. It's like an hour, just give an hour and see how you like it. And then it's like, oh, and then it starts rolling into, I really like this. So let me give it 2 and 3 and then kind of give your whole, life to it.
So interesting that it's an interesting analogy or illustration that you suggested. I agree 100%. From the beginning, we tested a lot of hypotheses as we went through this process. It's been about 2.5 years now. And we believe from the beginning that the kingdom consultant, the volunteer, is actually going to be impacted more than the missionary because the missionary is going to get their website done. Awesome. But the guy in Austin who works on websites is like, hey, I'm working with this ministry that's in Indonesia and they combat human trafficking and you won't believe what these guys are doing. It's so cool. It's a really amazing thing. And all of a sudden the woman, I'm thinking of a specific ministry, the woman that runs that ministry is like a person. They're not like this mysterious, missionary thing that floats in and comes in once a quarter to raise money. It's someone that you talk to once a week that's doing real stuff and you're actually on her team. So I think that it's going to be really interesting to see what the progression looks like. And frankly, we only do remote. So if you're serving with this missionary, Unbound is the name of the ministry. They're out of Antioch. If all of a sudden you feel like this is a really important thing and you're really getting involved, well, it's kind of an introduction to missions that lets you know, hey, I really care about Indonesia. I really care about Unbound. I really care about human trafficking. I think I am going to go. So I think that, we've seen organizations that are now that only send, that don't do virtual, which is kind of a new thing, who are now basically referring anybody that wants to serve but can't go to us so that we can basically prepare them to mobilize as virtual volunteers, and then we can actually assign them back to their organization in the field so they can actually serve with the organization that referred us.
Yeah, so it's like that biblical principle of like it's better to give than receive. But I think it's because I don't know what it is about the human experience, but when you observe an impact where you participated in, it somehow exponentially expands the wowness than when you just receive something. Because when you receive something, I think you kind of forget and move on.
It's, I think what we want to do, again, you go back to a younger generation. I mean, the people who pick up our app, it's like the 25-year-olds are like, well, why wouldn't every believer be on my smartphone? And, what time is it there? Can I call them now? Where the 50-year-olds are like, well, that's not really how we do it. I think that there's a couple of real benefits. The one is for I call them zillennials, so the Z's and the millennials. It makes it real, right? So now, where I think that people that are more my age is like, well, your social status comes from what you own and what your title is. It's your social status, I think, for younger people is, well, what are you involved in? What do you support? Who are you? What do you believe? This is a really cool, tangible way that, if you're at work, it's like, oh, what are you doing tonight? Oh, I'm working with this guy in the Philippines. He's trying to set up a well so that he can bring water to the village because right now they don't have access to clean water. It's like, you're doing what? So all of a sudden you're like a 26-year-old civil engineer who's helping somebody across the world to determine power management requirements so you could get enough power into a pump so that you could develop this well. It's like all of a sudden you've had this whole new narrative, this whole new thing you can talk about that I think creates a lot of social status and it shows you about impact and helping the world and not just about yourself, which I think is a really big thing. So getting the Z's and the millennials involved in that has been really powerful. And they're frankly some of our most active and enthusiastic volunteers. Mm-hmm. The other thing is that because you're now working with the guy or the gal who's on the front lines, you can talk about unreached people groups, 1040 window. You can talk about historically under, that only one out of every $30 goes to the areas where it's most needed. Well, I mean, you could basically receive a request, click a button, and be introduced directly to a guy who literally runs a facility 2 miles from where the Army Rangers have a checkpoint to keep like the dangerous parts of southern Philippines out of the area where you live. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is the definition. These guys have been trying to plant a church for 99 years. Mm-hmm. And, this guy's telling me, it's like, I don't know if it's 99 years into a 200-year window or 99 years into a 101-year window. We might be right there. But you're working with a guy who's on the ground, who's actually doing it, and not necessarily giving to, a big thing that has a regional thing that's got a local thing. It's like you're actually working with the guy who's literally on the ground. And I think that the immediacy of that and the sense that you can have a relationship with your Uber driver or the guy who comes and picks you up actually knows who you're going to be. It's a different expectation. Mm-hmm. And people that are used to the technologies that are in place expect it. And it's easier that way. You don't require, the cost structure is almost nothing. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you came in and you said, hey, Scott, we really could use somebody to help with social media strategy, you would click a button. It would pop up a little window. You say, here's kind of what we're thinking. Here's what's going on. It's about a 2-cent thing. You click a button. It goes to 4 volunteers. It hits their email. And honestly, Danny, usually within less than 10 minutes, somebody says, oh, I'll take that. That's a good fit for me. And they're automatically introduced to the missionary and they set up a time to work. Actually, we have a new enhancement. We actually book it on their calendars and then let them adjust it, which is way easier. And then the other 3 people are like, hey, thank you for your willingness to serve. Better luck next time. Click the button faster next time. So we're trying to get out of the middle. And if you think about Switchboard as a name, it's really about connecting everyday believers with missionaries in the field so they can do whatever God is leading them to.
Yeah, so the image I got at the end was like the telephone switchboard, right? It used to be like personally operated until they automated it and it's self-sufficient.
Right.
So how do you see AI disrupt or help or impact, what you're doing?
So there's a couple of things that I think AI can help a lot. We are working on something, or we're testing something right now to actually put on the website, which basically says, "Hey, I homeschool my kids. Can I help with the Great Commission?" Or, "Oh, I'm a high school football coach. Can I help with the Great Commission?" Or, so taking that little bit of information that you could discern about yourself and then running it through an AI model. So we basically have the ability to take that thing and break it into high school football coaches typically have the following skills and the following attributes. So we can use AI to break that person down into assumptions. And then all the things that are currently available on the platform, we've got an AI model that maps certain assumptions or characteristics to a potential service opportunity. So one thing that we want to do is we want to demonstrate. I want to put in a little promotion for my shirt. I'm called. We believe that every believer is called to the Great Commission. You homeschool your kids. You're a coach. You're a software programmer. You're called to the Great Commission too, and you can directly participate. So we want pastors to be able to say, "Hey, go here, type in whatever you're good at. I'm a beekeeper. I don't know. There probably are some things that are not very good fit. But for the 99% of things that you could type in, there's some way somebody in the world could be helped, and you could benefit the Great Commission." So using AI to discern what's inside of people, to try to connect them with service opportunities, I think is really powerful. Mm. And then the final thing, and this is so this is basically when I talked about the circle of what missionaries need, what volunteers could do. So the first thing I mentioned makes this circle bigger. The volunteer can do more things. The second thing is makes this circle bigger. What mission organizations need is also a bigger target to hit, because you didn't know you needed social media help, but based on what you told me, apparently you do. So let's get that started. The third part is really the hard part. And if anybody watching this podcast is really good at this and you're a believer, please call me, because this is a really important thing, is that the intersection of the two circles is really hard. What do you call things? What does it look like? How do you contextualize it? The more and more we specialize, and the more and more that catalog of activities where we connect people expands, the more important it is to be able to look at those nuances that AI can help us interpret. So it's not everything, but in terms of understanding and pulling in information that is not immediately available in a profile that somebody filled out, I think it's super informative. I'll give you a specific example. I won't use a specific country, but when we were doing our proof of concept, we had basically someone who was in Eastern Europe. They're running a business as mission. They employ women to do handcraft goods. I think she was at a conference in Thailand. She heard about us. She's like, "That sounds awesome." And she was struggling with manufacturing. So she created a request in the system that says, "I need somebody to implement a manufacturing system." I'm like, that's a really big thing. And that's what I did for a living. So I'm like, I think I should talk to her. So her first connection on Switchboard was with me. And I basically went through kind of her problem statement. What are you trying to solve? What are your revenues? How many people work there? What is your technical skill base to be able to run a system like that? And you looked at the workflow. It's like, wow, we got to the end of that call. And again, she said, "I want someone to implement a manufacturing system." At the end of that call, we changed it to, "I need somebody that can help me track my inventory and track my hours so that I can pay people, but also know kind of sort of what I have in stock. So I'll know when to order more stuff." And I'm like, "Okay, and where do you have that now?" Well, she had it all in Google Sheets. I said, "So what would happen if when you put a purchase receipt into this tab on this sheet, it updated your inventory and also went to your payment ledger to show that you now owed money?" She's like, "That would be amazing." Well, at the end of the day, she really needed someone who was good in Google Sheets or Excel to link some spreadsheets and define a couple of entry forms for receipts and payments. It was like 16 hours of work total for someone that knew Microsoft Excel. It wasn't 12 months of work and $30,000 of licensing for someone that needed manufacturing. So to be able to go, "So what do you really need based on what you're saying?"
Gotcha.
Oh my goodness gracious, Danny. I cannot even tell you.
No, I understand.
The solution that we implemented a proof of concept last summer.
Uh-huh.
that basically tried to solve that problem.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so hopelessly over-engineered. I could not pay people to use it because I'm like, well, I need to know more. I need to know more. Well, what else do you know? Well, I don't know. That's why I'm asking for an expert. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to drag information out of people so I could create this perfect solution. It's like, you know what? I really need a guy that knows manufacturing. And actually, from the leader of Christar North America, Steve Coffey uses the term WASTA. I know a guy. I know a guy. I need to know a guy that's good at marketing. I need to know a guy that's good at buying software. Like, well, I know a guy that could totally do that. So that's really that brought us to the 1 hour phone call.
Mm-hmm.
So that you capture skills and you say, what skills do you need? I'll connect you with a guy or gal that's got those skills. And now as we expand the taxonomy around what we call things and how we get them to the solution, really pulls them into it pulls them into a consultation with an expert around what the solution is before you try to define, okay, here's everything that I could possibly need.
Yeah, most of the times people, when they ask for help, it's more like a tip of the iceberg because underneath they think it'll solve a current problem. But in actuality, it's just covering the depth of more problems. So you got to keep asking, okay, why do you need this? Where are you trying to go?
That is exactly, that's exactly the problem we ran into last summer. And, the other thing is people don't ask you for things that they think they can't get. So and we're piloting this with Christar right now, is that building virtual teams that said, I need a CFO advisor. I need a human resources advisor. I need an IT advisor. I need a webmaster. I need a proofreader. I need somebody that edits photographs. I need somebody. People will help with all that stuff, but you got to sign them up in advance so that when somebody says, okay, let's build a team, you can literally just assign the team. And frankly, Danny, what we think is going to happen is that when you start to launch a virtual digital marketing team, you're going to sign up a guy who does websites, and he's going to sign up his buddies so we can work together in the same ministries. Hey, work with me on this. I need a photo editor. I need somebody that can write stories. Okay, we're the team. I think that they're going to start to form their own teams, and then those teams can actually start working with these ministries. And boy, howdy, no 55-year-old missionary in the field wants to learn MailChimp and wants to figure out how to do HTML. They just don't want to do it, and I don't blame them.
Mm-hmm.
So when you show up and say, here's your team, and here you go, and this team's like, you won't believe what we're doing these days. We just, literally, for them to be able to be involved with the school in Mauritius or be involved with, somebody that's in Myanmar, it's like, they don't even know where these countries are. And they're like, I'm working with a guy who's in Mauritius who runs a school and is doing this thing. And here's what we're doing. Wow. It's a totally different thing. I think people are going to really catch the bug is what I think.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. I kind of want to dig into your career path, mainly with SmartDog. You spun that out of your time in Oracle, and you were there like 16 years, right? So
it was.
How did SmartDog come about?
Well, actually, I learned Oracle stuff at Pricewaterhouse, and then I worked as an independent consultant before going to Oracle.
Mm-hmm.
And I left Oracle in 2003, and I went to an organization that was actually founded by a group out in New Orleans who had built a really terrific business. Paul McCarthy actually had been Ernst & Young's Entrepreneur of the Year, and it was all high flying and stuff like that. And I just felt like I wanted to work in a smaller company. And so I went to, it was DCC Services at the time, but we renamed it SmartDog because it was a consulting model, a remote services consulting model in the Oracle space, which had really never been done before. And so it's funny, we basically started signing customers, working with them virtually, remotely. We developed really strong expertise and knew their businesses really well. And then that model and that business actually grew through 2019. We actually exited that business to a group out of Boston right before COVID started. But the thing that's really interesting is that we were a very faith-forward organization. We implemented basically a model that says that I'm going to work virtually. I'm going to set the scope virtually. We're going to agree on it in advance. We're going to basically log these things as incidents, as tickets. And it was a really novel concept. And then fast forward 2019, 2020, we're starting to do research for Switchboard. It's like, why does nobody not do this? This is like, everybody's been doing Zoom forever, but the faith community has never adopted these techniques.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the smartphone, you look at Starlink, and you look at platform technologies like eBay, Uber kind of thing, it's like everything already exists to do everything that we need to do to mobilize the church to get involved directly. And so to be able to apply that, really cool time I had with Smart Dog to what we were doing at Switchboard was like, maybe God was paying attention and really knew what he was doing, that he took me to an organization that was, really founded in a faith principles, who was led by a very strong Christian man. And he allowed us to do this thing. And then this thing became Switchboard. I'm like, get out of town. Yet again, just another time that something happens that you didn't expect, that you go, yeah, I could totally see that this was part of the plan.
It's fascinating because the more new people I meet and I listen to their story, everyone has a unique experience. And based on their own unique challenges, limitations, and strengths, they come up with because human beings are just problem solvers, right, by nature.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the whole Switchboard thing really worked, because it's like people tend to discount their own life, or life experiences, because it's not like social media or highlights, but it's like, no, you actually have a lot to offer just by sharing what you did. And yeah, I just find it really funny, or just wowed by, God.
Well, but there's a lot of change management, because, pretty much the reason we call our volunteers kingdom consultants is missionaries don't like the term volunteer because there's so much stigma attached to it. Volunteers don't really help. They maybe help pay for stuff, but you got 10 people that show up, and I'm thinking short-term mission trips to some extent, but in general, volunteers have always been problematic for mission organizations. They just are. And then you look at the kingdom consultant side, and it's like, well, the last time I volunteered, I scraped poop out of a chicken coop with a little trowel, and I'm a real estate attorney, or have a PhD in whatever. It's like, if only somebody could use my skill based on what I'm really good at. And honestly, Danny, I could fill you up with stories of people that have super specialized skills that got plugged in ways that are just crazy amazing. I would take up another hour long call to do that. But it's like you just never know till you put it down and you make yourself available to, the body of Christ, what's going to show up. So, that's what we say is when we ask you to fill out a volunteer profile, it's like, you know what? You don't know. If you don't know, are you willing to be available? If you are, just put it down. And if the body calls, the body will call.
Well, the reason why I'm asking about Smart Dog is the tagline is the Oracle's customer's best friend. So why and what were you trying, what problem were you trying to solve? Because I get the whole consulting thing, but I don't know what you did.
So here's the thing about Oracle. Their software is really expensive. It's really good. It's incredibly powerful. And the vast majority of customers don't get full value out of their investment. You would go see customers and I bought a Ferrari and I'm driving a Chevy kind of a thing. And so what we found is that the typical customer that we serve, typically we did both the technical stuff, but also the business application side. So finance, manufacturing, customer service, shipping, distribution kind of stuff, is that, they basically, were running software that could use this much value, but they're only getting this much value. So what we would say is, we were the Oracle customer's best friend, because we would say that we would help you get value from the software that you already own. We're going to run diagnostics. So we're going to show you stuff you could turn on that you already bought, that's already implemented, that you just didn't know you could do it. And we're going to show you how to use the software in a way that you can really, what we used to always say is that we're going to make you glad you bought Oracle. And people would go, oh, spend $5 million on this thing and it's terrible and all this stuff. It's like, because you're not using all of it. So that was really our tagline, is that we want to be the Oracle customer's best friend by helping them, get value where they already had an asset that was underutilized. And frankly, Switchboard's kind of the same thing. You've got 260 million Christians just in North America who are kind of, sort of, mostly not doing anything for the Great Commission other than, maybe contributing to a cooperative fund. And it's like, you know what? You've got skills. You could use them. So, get off the sofa and get busy. So in some ways, it's the same thing. It's activating and mobilizing a pent-up asset.
Yeah, I really appreciate like your heart and your thought about like seeing problems as opportunities to help people. And you're like, wait, why are we doing it this way? It doesn't help anybody. Or like, it's wasting so many things, and let's do it another way. I like YouTube. I usually try to YouTube like podcasts from other guests, but you only had one from humanizing technology or something.
Yeah, a couple of years ago.
Yeah. But you mentioned technology as vocation. Could you kind of share about that on your thoughts?
I will tell you that to start somewhat philosophically, I do think that for the last, really maybe since the Industrial Revolution, as we've compartmentalized units of labor, broken things into chunks, we've really separated the human from the work. And in the process, we've separated the faith from the work. So Tim Keller, I mean, there's so many things now where it's a faith at work movement. But it used to be that I was part of the blacksmith guild, and our families lived together. We did similar work. We worshiped together. It was all kind of part and parcel to the same thing. And, even though what we're seeing at Switchboard requires huge, huge change management to think differently, the bottom line is every single thing we've used to build this platform already exists. It's readily available, off the shelf, ready to put together and ready to use. So I think that in some ways, the separation of faith and the way that people really move in terms of their pursuit of their faith is really separate from a lot of innovation. And it really the current structure relies on structures that have been in place since the 70s and 80s. Now, if you look at, the guy who is from Burundi, who's preaching from a street corner in Rwanda, he doesn't have a structure. He's just trying to figure stuff out. You look at the B4Ts and the business mission guys, they're like, hey, we're trying to create a whole new thing. So I think you're going to find that the 25 and 30-year-olds are moving out with a different expectation. There's a lot more entrepreneurship and a lot of more business. And with entrepreneurship, there's a lot of seeking ways to leverage new tools. And it's kind of like, I kind of see it like, as the millennials came out, when they realized that their most active users on Facebook were their grandparents, they stopped using Facebook. And I think you're going to find the mission organizations, it's like if you're going to look and see the mission organizations are using Zoom, or, hey, we're now using ChatGPT, which is still pretty darn new. But it's kind of like if your grandparents are using it, it's probably not the new thing anymore. And I think that there's a new mindset and there's a new hunger around what it really takes. There certainly is a new opportunity. And I think that giving those legacy people who really poured the ground, who created the ability to be in those countries, who sacrificed in the 70s and 80s, giving them the respect to kind of, to kind of move off into their retirement and really appreciate the fact that they created, as the Marines, they created the beachhead, that these new people are coming in with new ideas and techniques. I think that we can celebrate what they've done, but I think that the ways that they've done it are kind of moving into the background, and we're finding that there's new ways to really pursue, faith. I mean, some of the stuff that I'm seeing from some of our more innovative customers that are using, available tools to reach millions of people is incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And it's like, why not? I mean, there's a girl, 16-year-old that was at my wife's school that had, 2 million followers on TikTok. It's like, and so not that we want to be on TikTok, but I just don't want to ignore that there are new ways of doing things, and that as believers, it's our responsibility to find every possible asset that's been put at our disposal for the kingdom.
So part of my own personal theory is, when Jesus says, if you've feel like you've forgiven a lot, then you will forgive more easily. And I think that also applies to people who have received help. I think people who received a lot of help realize how valuable it is. So they have this reciprocity of trying to help others. But if you don't have ever experienced that, I think like help becomes kind of more optional than necessary. And the reason why I bring this up because on the podcast you mentioned like you credit other people in your life growing up, right? Like forming you, helping you understand and growing. What did you learn from them, and how did it shape you?
Oh boy, man. Well, first thing, that's a great question. Second thing is, shame on you for going to a 2-year-old podcast to try to remember what I said back then. I think that everything that we do is on the shoulders of those who came before us. I think I did mention my father on that call because my dad was kind of the what's possible guy, not what exists, and walking into a situation and saying, what's available to me now, and what can we make happen, and who wants to be a part of that? I mean, I always felt like I'm an aggregator, not necessarily an idea guy, but it's like who benefits from this and who wants this to happen and who can we bring together so it forms a team. I think it's just huge. It's really enormous to have a different mindset and to be brought up in a house where why wouldn't you be the one who would win math competition, who would start on the basketball team, or who would, somewhere in the house, there was a letter I wrote I was talking about, I'm sure we were watching the news, and my parents were like, oh, well, you should write the president. I'm like, okay. And I wrote the president. I was 8 years old, and a letter came back from the president. And then 25 years later, I'm in graduate school, and I was given this case study around something, Harvard, something. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to call the guy. So I got on the phone and I called the guy that was the head of the department at Harvard. I'm like, we just got this case study. I'm at Baylor. What did you guys do? And he's like, he tells me what he did. I'm like, that was awesome. So this idea that people are available and that nothing is impossible, it's like, why wouldn't you try? I went to a conference of a speaking thing at DCX where there's a guy in town that brings these business leaders together to have these really great faith-forward messages. Chris Miroff, I'll throw a bone for him. I went to this event that he threw 2 months ago with an XXL I Am Called t-shirt because Tim Tebow was speaking, thinking, hey, you know what? If I run into Tim, I'm going to get him to put on my shirt. I'm going to take his picture so that people will want to volunteer for the Great Commission. I did not find myself in audience with Tim, but hey, why not, right? So there's a little bit of that. I think getting that from my dad, and honestly, my wife is the same way. She's like, well, give it a shot, see what happens. I think that, wow, I don't know. I've been inspired by many, many people. So I look at all the people that are out there trying to do things in faith who have really extraordinary skills, technically, very marketable skills, who are like, you know what? That's not what I want to do. I'm going to focus on this. And it's a real inspiration. I mean, it's something that I've drawn from myself because I feel like God has really provided for us. So
the other reason why I bring this up is because there's this idea, for young people, you go out and find a mentor or find the information you need. But to me, that makes sense in some aspects because you need to be kind of proactive. But a lot of times I was just placed in situations to be around people, and just by being near them, I learned from them. Do you know what I mean? It's not like I asked them to teach me. It was just oh, there was this opportunity, and there was just this person that was really good at what they did. So I just observed them, asked them a lot of questions. And so what advice would you give young people?
Well, I honestly, it's interesting because I was not very good at recruiting mentors. I think I felt like I was a bother maybe, or they wouldn't care, or it doesn't really benefit them. And what I've learned is that it's literally just the opposite. So, I mean, so my wife and I teach a class of what was once referred as the young marrieds. They're not that young anymore, but I'm just going to go with that. And I meet with those guys a lot to talk about their families, to talk about issues that they've got with things they're struggling with, to talk about jobs and what to do. And it's interesting, especially if you're changing careers or you're coming out of college or you're going into college, you really have a backstage pass to meet with anybody. Hey, I noticed that you're in this. I really feel like I want to be a senior software engineer. That's what I think. Hey, Danny, I would love it if you would let me buy you coffee. Honestly, I'd love to kind of find out what things do you wish somebody had told you when you were my age. And people love it. They love that. They love it when people ask their opinion. I think that weirdly enough, a lot of people that are 45 and older feel awkward around 20-year-olds. Like, well, I don't know the latest TikTok thing, or I don't know the whatever. And it's like, for someone to sit at your feet and ask you questions and to give them real advice and hard advice about, people get their first job offer. They're like, well, I don't know how to ask, do I just take it or what do I do? And kind of walking them through that process to understand, the things that really matter, I think are just really important. And I mean, there's just nobody that is off limits in terms of being a mentor, especially if you're at one of those formative stages. People really enjoy it. And recruiting them and keeping them in your life. We have a fractional chief technology officer, Marcus Smith, who frankly came at a perfect time in our project. We would not have gotten this done, without Marcus. But he's recruited a team of older guys that are kind of a formal mentor group that meet once a quarter. And we're developing relationships with each other. But these are guys that he's brought together to really provide that kind of guidance and mentorship. And we're not like all awesome, you're so good. I mean, we kind of tell them what we really think, and it's really interesting to kind of see. So, I mean, be fearless. I mean, there's no reason to be discontent, but to be out there and just, I don't know. I feel like you really have the ability to consider anything and build those relationships. The other thing I used to tell my kids is that, every day you're going to meet somebody new, and today may be the day that you meet somebody that you'll know or work with the rest of your life. So pay attention and stay in touch. I mean, LinkedIn is such a great tool. Faithly is such a great tool that would really let you, as you form these relationships, to be able to reach back out and find people that you share values with is really huge. And so to do that systematically, and this isn't trying to like secure a bunch of contacts from a sales perspective. These are people that you meet somebody, you're like, wow, we kind of get each other. I really like to know you down the road. You don't know what the trajectory of their life will be or whether or not you're going to intersect or not, but maintaining those relationships are incredibly valuable. It will make you happier and make you better connected and make you more professionally successful as well.
You said you met your wife at church, but you mentioned one story like you were traveling and you were eating fancy food and you would bring a fancy dessert home and then she's eating cereal. She's like, thanks. And you stop. One, why did you think it was a good idea? And then two, what did you learn that day? You're like, oh, okay, I shouldn't do that.
Well, so I did it because I wanted to I'm thinking about you, dear, and I brought you something special and all that kind of stuff. What I learned is that, number one, it reminded her that I was, at the, having a 5-star ribeye, and she was having, cereal and macaroni and cheese. And number two is the last thing you want 2 nights a week is someone to bring you a big piece of cheesecake, at 9:00 at night. That is no bueno. That doesn't help with anything. So yeah, that was a great idea while it lasted, but I stopped doing it.
Did you bring anything else home, or you just didn't bring anything else home anymore?
Probably didn't. I mean, I would bring home flowers occasionally, stuff like that, but no more food. Certainly no more really like heavy fat food.
So the reason why I ask is because often we think something's a really good idea because we have really good intentions, but then how someone receives it can be completely off base because of where they're at, mentally, emotionally, and just in the life stage. And so, yeah, like, would you have just like ask her, like, hey, like, was there even a thought or like, would you like dessert? Me bring dessert, or you just kind of like do things?
I typically just do things because it seems more spontaneous or romantic or whatever. She's in our relationship, I'm more the emotional one. She's more the pragmatic one.
Gotcha.
In some ways. She's super pragmatic. I mean, we're coming up on 34 years in 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. So we're doing okay.
Yeah. And so what was it like dating someone in church? Because nowadays there's always this like intense anxiety about like, oh, if we break up, we got to leave church, or like which I don't understand because it's like, why can't you just stay friends? But I get the whole emotional part of it.
It was more of a joke. I used to tell people I never date a girl who lives next door, and I never date a girl from church. And that was really just a joke. I met her. She's really smart, and she was really interesting and really pragmatic. And technically, when we went out, it wasn't a date. It was kind of a let's go hang out kind of a thing. And then, 11 months later, we were married. So, so fortunately, we did not have to choose which church we would go to or things like that. But it was always more of we had seen people that had met at church and had this long courtship, and their friends became, couples friends. And then all of a sudden you're not a couple anymore. And it's like, well, then who gets custody of the friends? And we obviously never dealt with that because we moved on and got married and stayed married. So
what would you say to early entrepreneurs who are really ambitious about building a company, but is married and have kids?
I'll give you a plus and a minus. I do think that Melanie stayed home with the kids until they started school, and then she actually went back to teaching. But we were really good about, family time was family time. So, whether it's, church stuff, sports stuff, camping stuff, whatever we were doing, there was never, I wasn't the guy that was working, 7 days a week kind of a thing. I think that the downside is that I felt like I wasn't good at putting it out of my mind and leaving it out of the picture. So I felt like even when I was with family, it was always kind of hanging with me. Now, I will tell you that I talked to my kids who are grown now about this, and they didn't realize it. Obviously, Melanie did. So they were like, oh, you were a great dad and you were goofy and all that kind of stuff. But I wish that I had been better at just doing a better job of letting go, maybe building a stronger management team or structuring management differently so that it wasn't kind of all on my plate. And I'll admit I'm not great at that now either. Although, Melanie's actually helping out with Switchboard, and I work with my son who's with Switchboard, and, the kids are out of the house. So it's less problematic. But for the people that have the ability to compartmentalize, I think the younger people are better at, when you punch out, you're out kind of thing. And I'm, simultaneously frustrated and jealous because I'm like, yeah, but I really just need a 5-minute question on a Saturday. But it's also, I wish I wasn't thinking about it on a Saturday kind of a thing. I don't know. It's just kind of how I'm wired and how my dad was wired.
So what are you hoping for at Faithly?
I think Faithly is a really great, it's funny. I'd introduced you to the guy in Atlanta, Jeff Brink. I think it's really clear to people that come from the business world that the connections are crucial. And it's not just around conversations. It's around shared values. It's around circumstances. It's around geography. It's around whatever it's around. And that thing that it is, the ability to bring together the body in a way that really matters, that is impactful, frankly, it's the reason I feel like believers are playing defense in modern culture today. There might be two people of some sexual or, gender or, philosophical orientation. There may be 1% of people, but because that 1% is all talking together, they have this huge voice. And meanwhile, you've got this in this huge body of people that are faith-based, that believe in the same thing, that care about the same thing, that really follow the same Lord. And we never ever, outside of a Bud Light moment, we never get together around anything. It's like, what would happen if we just decided to buy the same brand of potato chips? I mean, literally, that we would only buy this automobile, or that we would only watch this TV station, or we would only watch, this streaming video service. I mean, we literally could rule the world. And so to me, finding organizations that are taking the time to build out platforms that your objective is to connect those people and provide ways for them to find each other, frankly if you look at our 3-year roadmap, we're just trying to get a bunch of people that want to serve and a bunch of people that need help and get them in a thing. So we got them. But once those people are in a thing, well, these people are going to want to interact around civil engineering and wells. These people are going to want to interact about what's happening in this little village in, southern Philippines. It's like, so there's a lot of organizations that have finite objectives around, selling customers or putting people on platforms, creating some marketplace, some town hall, some place that they could come together is the thing that actually allows us to, number one, be effective as the body, to really act as the Holy Spirit really directs us, as opposed to just what we happen to see in front of us. I think it's crucial, and I wish you guys the best, because I think it is absolutely crucial that Christians, number one, identify themselves. Number two, that they come together in strength and to encourage each other and hold each other accountable. And number three, to create, something that really has meaning so that we are not always playing defense in modern culture. I think that we have been robbed of the word gay. We've been robbed of the rainbow. Apparently we can't do okay anymore either. It's like what happened in this world? So to me, I think that, for you guys to bring people together and to do it successfully creates so many other opportunities for the body and for us to grow and to strengthen ourselves, that we could really mobilize a lot more people than is even currently feasible.
Last question is, how can we be praying for you?
Oh, wow. We have a lot to figure out. The intersection, when you get a lot of people trying to connect with a lot of people. So, really helping us to really have wisdom and understanding what that connection can look like, to not overcomplicate it. People helping to identify people that are really good at that, the taxonomy of work, understanding maybe some of the ML, some of the data models that are available to help us maybe discern some things that aren't, evident in the text, things like that, because we're trying to draw from anybody who has expertise in that area that we can. And then, right now we're actually doing some bridge funding. So we're raising money to basically take us through kind of getting to full launch, which is really May, June timeframe. So we're opening up a lot more volume starting in January based on kind of what we've learned in the last 3 months after the general release. And of course, the supply side, that people would really be touched, that people would be moved to serve. I mean, we find that in every church of 1,000, there's 30 people that are begging for a place to serve. Probably another 70 that if it was obvious that there was a way for them to serve, they would. But there's probably another 300 in that church that need to kind of think differently. So kind of the change management on that side is going to be really important. It's a completely different thing. So, yeah.
Well, this is great, Scott. Thanks for coming on.
I enjoyed talking. I'm glad that I wore the appropriate podcast apparel. I was really just trying to rep my shirt, but
yeah.
Good, you showed up in your black T-shirt.
It's just coincidence.
Thanks for all you guys are doing.
I appreciate it. All right, that's it for the podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to the Faithly Stories podcast. We pray this episode gave you the encouragement you needed to continue on your journey. The Faithly Stories podcast is brought to you by Faithly, an online community committed to empowering church leaders, pastors, staff, and volunteers. The Faithly digital platform offers innovative and practical tools and resources to enhance connection, foster collaboration, and promote growth within the church and ministry space. Remember to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help reach more listeners like you. Stay tuned for more uplifting tales from the front lines of ministry on the Faithly podcast. Stay bold, stay faithful, and never underestimate the power of your own story.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.